Numbers 13 and 14 record the Israelites' journey in the wilderness after leaving Egypt. After the men return from spying on the land, they declare that Canaan is full of good things, but the people seem too strong to overcome. As they listed their objections to entering the land, only Caleb and Joshua disagreed with their report. Caleb and Joshua believed they could prevail over the enemies in the land of Canaan. However, the negative report persuaded the Israelites, and they lamented that they had not remained in Egypt. The Israelites decided to choose another leader who could help them return to Egypt and stoned their current leaders, but the glory of the Lord appeared and interrupted their plans. Which brings us to our key verse for today, which reads, "And if the Lord is pleased with us, he will bring us safely into that land and give it to us. It is a rich land flowing with milk and honey." Numbers chapter 14, verse 8. All the hardships the people had endured for the previous 2 years piled on each other. The people embraced the report from the 10 spies and turned on Moses and Aaron, God's appointed leaders. Nothing of the excitement and vitality that had greeted the departure from Egypt remained, and now they just wanted to die. Now they feared being prey. They envisioned themselves being carted off as the spoils of a losing war. They concluded that God had handed them a raw deal by bringing them to the edge of the promised land only to be destroyed by the giants in the land. The Israelites no longer wanted anything to do with God's plan to deliver them to a promised land where they could be free. They decided among themselves to come up with an alternative plan. Moses and Aaron knew that the people's actions would not please God. They fell on their faces, anticipating what God was about to do. As Moses and Aaron lay prostrate on the ground, Joshua and Caleb, the 2 spies who came back with a message of faithful anticipation that God would give the people the land, rent their clothes, stepped up, and addressed the people. Though the journey had been burdensome, they had not lost faith in God or his plan for Israel's future. They reminded the people that the land was indeed a marvelous place. Clothes rent, Caleb and Joshua stood before the people and tried to make their case not to abandon God. Earlier, the people had seen a single huge branch of grapes cut from a tree in the promised land, which required 2 men to carry it back to the encampment. Caleb and Joshua did not refute the report of the other spies, but tried to remind the people that the God who had promised the land to them was sufficient to fulfill his word and deliver that land. They emphasized that the land would be theirs if God delighted in his people. Thus, they encouraged and warned the people not to rebel against God. They also indicated that because God was with the people, the land's inhabitants would be defenseless. It was almost as if Joshua and Caleb reminded the people of the power of the same God who delivered them from Egypt. Yet the people to whom they spoke had already decided not to listen. As Caleb and Joshua pleaded with the people to remember God, the crowd became more and more convinced that they wanted nothing to do with what they were saying. As a response, they began to pick up stones to kill them. The congregation had allowed itself to become convinced that God was in favor of their desire to return to Egypt. The children of Israel felt justified in their belief and actions until God's glory appeared before them and spoke to Moses. So here's our lesson. God has called the church to enter our lands and be the hands and feet of Jesus in the world. Despite that call, many churches remain silent on issues like violence against women and children, the plight of refugee and migrant families, and environmental concerns. But we often justify our silence by arguing that churches are spiritual, not political spaces. Jesus taught us that the first and greatest commandment is to love the Lord with all our hearts, souls, and minds, and the second is to love our neighbors as ourselves. God has promised never to forsake us. The Great Commission records that Jesus is with us until the end of the age. God has already promised the victory. So why are we so afraid to speak up and help those who are suffering? Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to iLights. Heavenly Father, fill our hearts with what we truly desire, for who we truly seek is you.